Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about my first 90 days here in the Philippines. I've got a lot of requests for people asking me, how was that first 30 days here, 60 days? I'm going to stretch that all the way out to 90 days because I was in the Philippines a little bit over 90 days when I first met Janet. So I'll take you back to my initial arrival to the Philippines and up until the point of meeting Janet. I landed in Manila Airport. It was about 2 in the morning, and I had about a 5-hour layover until my flight took me to the island of Bohol. I hung out in the airport. Nothing was open, nowhere to get a cup of coffee. There was nothing at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Things started to open up about 5:36. I was able to get a cup of coffee, just sat in an uncomfortable chair and just watched the clock because I was so excited about being here. I couldn't sleep, but I wanted to get right to my final destination. When I arrived at the airport in Panglao, it was pretty simple. Got off the plane, collected my baggage. I had a friend, a female friend that I met online. She met me at the airport. She had a car there to take me to the apartment that I rented, and it was easy peasy. We got into the car. We took the 15-minute ride, arrived at the apartment, checked in. I stayed at a place called the Stanley House. Now, the Stanley House is a bunch of studio apartments and a couple one-bedroom apartments, and I got the one-bedroom. I was really pleased with that. It was on the 3rd floor. It had a balcony overlooking the ocean, overlooking a beach, a long beach, and I wasn't on the side of Alona Beach. I was on the opposite side, close to the Bellevue Resort. My friend already had the key. We went right up to the room. I unpacked. She left. She lived in the northern part of the Bohol Island up in Taliban. So she went home. I was on my own. Pretty strange there. I didn't have any food in the refrigerator. I didn't have any load in my phone. I was really on an island all by myself there. So the first thing she told me to do was the next day, go into the city of Tacloban, go to Island City Mall, get my phone taken care of, get the load, get a SIM card. Back then we didn't have to register like you do nowadays, and buy some groceries for the refrigerator. So I took a trike to the jeepney. The trike cost me about 110 pesos. To take a trike from the Stanley House to the terminal where the jeepneys were at. And then I took a jeepney from there all the way into Tacloban, right to the Island City Mall. And that was 50 pesos. The trouble is, cramped. You had to sit small. Any of you guys have been in a jeepney, you know how difficult it is to travel in a jeepney. You have to sit sort of sideways. I'm a big guy. Sore back a couple times on this trip, but I went up there and I was pleasantly surprised how easy it was to get the SIM card and the load. Just went to one of these little kiosk booths where there were a couple girls in there and they would sell phone and load, and they sold me the SIM card, sold me the load. They loaded the phone for me. They did everything on the phone for me. And I tipped them a little bit, and that was fun. Every time I needed a load, I went to the same place, see the same girls, same conversation. That was very enjoyable. Shopping there in the basement or the lowest level of Island City Mall is a grocery store, and that's where I would go to get my groceries. And you sort of had to shop after you were all done with everything else. You get your load if you wanted coffee, if you're going to get lunch, if you're going to meet somebody. The last thing you did was buy your groceries, because you buy your meat, and I didn't have a cooler at the time. You buy your meat, your vegetables, and you have to walk a little ways to get back on a jeepney. You had to take that 35 to 40-minute jeepney ride back down into Panglao, and then that next trike ride, another 15 minutes on the trike to get to my apartment. So the last thing you want to do is take stuff out of refrigeration, the meat and such, and get it back to your apartment. That was the only hassle there. I was excited. This was my first day now. I'm 24 hours in. I have groceries. I have load. Where I stayed, they had internet, so that was no big deal. I just logged on to the internet And first thing I started doing, like most guys, I started looking for a date. I'm looking for girls. Trouble is, it's not that easy to find a girl once you're there. You know, when you're in the U.S. and you're talking, or you're in your home country and you're talking to a girl, she is interested in you. What's your life? What's it like there? If you tell them you're already in the Philippines, some of them are scared off. Some of them don't want nothing to do with you because you're not a good mark for them. You're not going to be sending them money because you're already here. I found it hard to find anybody to date on a long term. I had a lot of single dates. But nothing that went to a second date or a third date. On the second day, you know, now I'm all set up. I got my Facebook, I got my laptop working, and I know that about a 2.5 mile walk down the beach, I'll run into a coffee shop. I started to enjoy the walk, went past the Bellevue Resort, past the mall, around the bend of the island, and there was a coffee shop that I like to go to. And it was about, like I said, about a 2 mile walk, 2.5 mile walk. It was very enjoyable. And then I would walk back and take care of my business, enjoy the day, just lounging, maybe walking around the neighborhood, just trying to get used to everything. I'm in the Philippines. I'm sort of like excited, but I'm tense. The expat community that I met there was very quiet. They were people that were there all during COVID. They weren't used to meeting new people. I was probably one of the first tourists to come after the island opened up again, after the Philippines opened. And there was really nobody to hang out with and talk to, and some of them I really didn't want to hang out and talk to. A couple of them were bloggers down on the lower level. A couple of them were drunks. They were drunk every day. You know, I would see them come in at 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, drunk and making noise. So I wasn't really interested in that. But I made that long walk twice a day, in the morning, and then I would do it for dinner. I would always eat my dinner out. And I found it very peaceful to walk on the beach. If the tide was high, it was a little bit tricky because there wasn't that much shoreline. Sometimes you had to walk up into the jungle, but most of the time the tide was either low tide or it was out a little bit, and you could just walk along the beach the whole distance. You'd see people with nets trying to fish, but you saw most of the time people were trying to catch sea urchins. That was the big harvest there. When the tide went low, they would collect the sea urchins. And this walking, it did two good things for me. One, it got me back in shape a little bit. You know, I dropped a lot of weight because of this walking on the beach every day. You know, I'm going to say I walked at least 8 miles every day, 7 days a week. And also my eating, I would have breakfast. You know, it was coffee. I didn't order eggs or anything, but I would have a dinner, and that dinner was usually a barbecue chicken, rice, whatever the locals would prepare, and I would just buy that and eat. But it was expensive. It was like 400 pesos for a chicken leg and a thigh, you know, the quarter, a cup of rice, and maybe a vegetable with it and a piece of bread, and that was it. And it was, you know, like 10 bucks. I found food very expensive and the portions very small. But I was able to unwind. I was so wound up with the months and days leading up to my leaving the U.S. You know, the U.S. to me was very stressful at the time, and I worked full time. I worked up until I left. I worked almost every day up until I left. The last 4 days before I left, I sold my truck at CarMax, got a check that same day. Blessed and lucky that I got more for the truck than I paid for it. So that was a blessing because of how the economy was working back then. Four-wheel drive trucks were very, very expensive and going up in value on a daily basis. But working was becoming a hassle and a grind. The requirements at work with the COVID, you know, wearing the mask and everything, it was starting to get to me. A lot of other different things were getting to me, and I was so happy the day I got the news. I was listening to Jennifer Terry. I would watch her YouTube channel, and the day she announced the Philippines is now going to be open. They have eliminated the requirements. You had to have your COVID shot to get in, but they were allowing tourists back in. And I had my shots. I had them because I wanted to work, I wanted to earn money, and it was the one way for me to keep my job and be working unlimited overtime, and was able to put away a good chunk of change to come to the Philippines. It had nothing to do with my political beliefs or anything of that nature. It was just what I wanted to do because I wanted to get on with my life. And if getting jabbed was what I had to do, then I did it. And judge me any way you want on that. I did what I thought was best for me, and that's exactly what you should be doing. Do what is best for you. So now I'm all wound up, I'm ready to go, and then you have all the last minute details you had to do back then. You had to get a test, a COVID test result, 24 or 48 hours prior to getting on the plane and landing in Manila. So you sort of had a time that you took the test and you got the result. You boarded your plane, you took your flight, and you got to Manila within that window of 48 hours, and that was stressful. You know, I ended up paying for 2 tests because the one was taking too long to get the result, and then I took the test at the airport. So much stress with all this little stuff that you guys coming here now don't have. Thank goodness. You don't have any of those problems now. You can just get on a plane and get here. But once I got to Alona Beach area, Panglao, and I was able to walk the beach every day for a month, every day, and the pressure just went away from my shoulders. You know, my money was good, rent was cheap. It was like 10,000 pesos for this beautiful 1-bedroom furnished apartment overlooking the ocean, 50 yards from the ocean. And walking down to 2 different resorts, plus farther down was the restaurant that I enjoyed. It was peaceful. I didn't have to walk on the road. I did do journeys and walk on the main road, but I found I could just get everywhere walking on the beach and then just taking a dirt road to the main road. So I really enjoyed that. All the stress left me, all the pressure. The videos I took of me walking, and I sent it to my coworkers, people who I worked with, and people who I knew, my friends. And they would all say, Mike, you're living in paradise. You know, I would show them a video of the ocean, the Philippine fishing boats out there, me walking, the girls walking on the beach. It was just beautiful, beautiful. It was like a postcard. It was so nice. Comes week number 5, doing the same thing. It just started to get to me. You know, that Groundhog Day. I'm doing the same thing every day. Every day I would get up at 5 in the morning, take my shower, shave, put on my swim trunks, walk my flip-flops, walk down to the beach, and walk down to the restaurant to get my coffee, have my coffee, my conversation with people, head back to the apartment, go upstairs to the apartment, make myself something light to eat, and either be reading a book, mostly online because back then I was doing day trading and, you know, my investments of my money, and that started to become too demanding of my time. I would have to stay up late to do day trading, so I gave that up. I didn't need any extra money. I had plenty of money, so I gave that up. And I started to get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's so hard to believe when you're saying, if you're in the States and you're saying, hey, walking on this beautiful Philippine beach every day is peaceful. Why do you want to give it up? I would do that every day for the rest of my life. I don't think you would. And I'm going to thank my stay in Panglao. It was the best thing I did for de-stressing. De-stressing. I could sit on my patio at night. The sun's down, you could just see the stars, you could see the lights of Cebu Island from where I was at, and you could hear the waves coming in, you know, and that calming noise, and I would just sit there with my coffee or my, you know, lemonade or whatever I made, and relax and just enjoy the peacefulness. I didn't have any more headaches like I did back in the States. I would always have that tension headache over here every day. You'd wake up, something you had to get done, something you had to do, something you had to pay, someplace you had to be, all this tension and stress, and it was all gone. It was all gone. But being bored started to set in. And being bored is a terrible thing here in the Philippines. It's going to happen to everybody who comes here if you're not in a relationship, if you're a single guy and you just want to have a peaceful life. Life sort of gets repetitious. And I really got tired of it, you know, going to the same restaurant. It almost came one morning when I didn't go. And I didn't go, and I didn't go that evening for dinner. I just stayed at the apartment. I walked a short walk on the beach, but it was the same beach, the same people, the same fishing nets, the same guy selling sea urchins, and you know, it's just the same thing over and over again. Same truck driver I would use, same neighbors. So I said to myself, I'm going to go to Dumaguete. I'm going to go to Dumaguete. And, you know, I looked it up, and it's a quick ferry ride. I checked YouTube, and I found a couple videos on people who took the ferry from Tacloban over to Dumaguete. It was a 2-hour ferry ride, inexpensive, under 20 bucks each direction. So I booked it. And I just packed up my backpack, and I went, locked up my apartment, left everything in the apartment, and just went. And I got an Airbnb for a week. And this Airbnb was out by the university. It was a nice little Airbnb behind the Flaming Grill. And it was nice. It was small, it was clean, it had a coffee pot, it had a TV, had internet, everything I needed. And I got there, and the first thing I did was I took a walk. I walked from there past Silliman University, downtown Dumaguete, and I got to see things that I saw Bud Brown show us, you know, the McDonald's and the traffic and Lee's Plaza and the church and the plaza, the little park setting at the far end of downtown there. And then I made the left, and I saw the ocean, and I walked down to the ocean. There was the boulevard. And I was so excited that I found the boulevard that I've seen on so many YouTube videos. And I was just like everybody I see now when they get off the ferry, when Janet and I are having coffee, I see all these people walking the boulevard. And the joy when you finally get here of something that you've seen and you are there now. And I was so happy to be in Dumaguete. The first meal I had was at Casablanca. And it was a 400 peso meal. But it was a breakfast, the English breakfast. First one I had in the Philippines, an English breakfast. Had egg, had baked beans, it had bacon, it had sausage, it had bread and butter or toast, came with a cup of coffee. It was more food than I could eat. More food than I could eat. Twice as much size-wise than I would get in Panglao for 400 pesos, which was just a piece of chicken and some rice and a vegetable. This was a full meal with unlimited coffee. In Panglao, I had to pay for each refill of coffee. And they had the small cups. They didn't have no big cup. It was very expensive, 55, 70 pesos. But every time you wanted another one, you had to pay for it. And that was more or less 3-in-1 coffee or just black instant coffee. At Casablanca, I got that brewed coffee, you know, and it was just, it tasted better. The food tasted better. Seeing the ocean was nice when I sat down and ate. Different than the beach and the ocean from my balcony where I prepared my own meal or coffee and would watch. This was different. There were people walking here. There was life. There was Filipinas and Filipinos enjoying their life. And I really liked it. And I walked from there to Robinson Mall. I walked from Robinson Mall to what is called North Point now, by HEIDI, by the Lantau restaurant, and by the Marina condos there. And then I would walk, I'd make a left up that road, past Sierra Hotel, and my Airbnb was right around the corner. It was a long walk. It was an enjoyable walk. It was a hot walk. It was summertime. And the people who owned the Airbnb, they left me an umbrella. And I said, it's never raining, why'd you leave me an umbrella? They go, use the umbrella when it's hot. So I started walking with that umbrella. But the wires were so low that the tip of my umbrella would touch the wires, and I was scared to death of that. So the trikes were everywhere, but I did not know how to use the trikes here. In Panglao, they were easy. The trike driver lived next door to where I stayed, and I would just say, hey, I need to go here, or I need to go there. He would tell me how much, and I would pay him and go. Waving down a trike, I tried once, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And he just went on. You know, he couldn't wait for me all day to make up my mind. So there was a girl that I met online when I was home, and I contacted her. I said, hey, I'm here in Dumaguete. I need a guide. So she came down, and she showed up in my Airbnb the next morning, and she showed me how to use the trike. And you know, I wanted to look for rental places. I didn't know how much rental property was, you know, apartment and all this. I also want to know how to get places. So she showed me, you just get in, it's 20 pesos. When you get out, if you go far, which would be from like the north part of town to downtown Dumaguete, if you went past the mall, it'd be like double fare. So, but I always gave 50 pesos for my trike ride. And she would take me around, we'd look on Marketplace for places to rent. And she would hire a trike driver for the day, and it was 500 pesos, and I had him all day. He took us to like 6 different places to look. Nothing that I liked, pretty run down, pretty beat up, nothing I was thrilled with. Then on the last day she was with me, we found this place up here across from Genobe High School. And it was a beautiful apartment, 1-bedroom apartment. The compound had a pool. There was 4 units in this building, and I was going to get one of the top ones. There was construction going on right next door. That was a pain in the ass, listening to that noise during the day. But it was better than paying the Airbnb rate. This place cost me 16,000 pesos a month, no lease, 16,000 security deposit. So for 32,000 I moved in. I paid him. I went back to Panglao, packed up my stuff, and moved over here to Dumaguete. And Dumaguete was a different experience. I stayed up here. And the big negative to everything is I didn't have a motorbike. If I was in Panglao and I had a motorbike, I think I would have enjoyed the island of Panglao better. But I never rode a motorbike in my life. I never rode a dirt bike, anything, motorcycle, nothing. And I even checked on buying a motorcycle. The thing that scared me there was the registration was going to take a long time. They were telling me 3 to 6 months to get the registration. And I told them I was thinking of moving to Dumaguete. They, oh no, you can't take the bike there until you get it registered. So I didn't buy a bike in Panglao. I didn't even think of renting one because I couldn't drive. And I was scared of getting in an accident. So by not being able to drive was the biggest negative. I might have liked Panglao a lot better if I was able to drive around the island, but I didn't. So now I'm in Dumaguete. We found the apartment. I move in, and now I'm looking for a motorbike. And I found this one gentleman, so kind, so nice, selling his bike. And he was asking $45,000 for this Honda Click 150. I think it was 155, but Honda Click. And I took the yellow bus into Darwin. He came downtown Darwin, picked me up, and took me to his bike. And he said, practice. I never rode one before. He said, just get on it. And you know, I almost hit the trees on his lot. I almost hit the tree here. I almost went into the ditch, but I didn't go into anything. And I told him I'd buy it. I'd buy it. And he gave me a helmet and the bike. And I told him, how am I going to get the bike home? I can't ride it home. Would you please deliver it? And he said the next day. So I told him, I'll meet you at Hypermart. I was halfway up to Valencia, so I took the trike down to Hypermart. And he was there with his wife. He rode me on the motorbike. And his wife was on the other motorbike. And we rode double. He rode me up to the apartment I was at. I opened the gate. He pulled it in and parked it, gave me the keys, gave me all the paperwork. He also took me to the lawyer to do the bill of sale, which is very important. When you buy a used bike, Changing the registration's not as important as getting a bill of sale. So now I have a motorbike and I have an apartment and I'm happy, but I'm still taking the trike downtown Dumaguete every day. I would end up at the boulevard. I would wander around. I did not know about Tom Tom's then. I did not know Bo's Coffee there. I did not know Ground Zero. I knew about the Why Not, and I swore I would not go into the Why Not. I would not go into Bogart's. These are two places I just didn't want to go to because I don't drink. And I just said I don't want to start hanging out at bars and end up being an alcoholic. Not that you're an alcoholic going there, but if that becomes a crutch because you're lonely, and every day you wake up at 9, 10 o'clock and you go to that bar to hang out with people and have a drink and have another drink, it's not the life I was looking for in the Philippines. So it's nothing against the Why Not or Bogart's or Sideways. I just did not want to hang out at bars. And I just didn't. So I would go down to the boulevard, I would walk around the boulevard, I'd have breakfast or lunch at San Ravel or Casablanca. I'd head over to the mall, I'd walk to the mall itself, I'd do whatever shopping I needed done. I could also walk up to Hypermart and catch a trike there at Hypermart to take me up to my apartment. I enjoyed the walking back then. I really did enjoy the walking. But loneliness was kicking in. I didn't have a girlfriend. That girl that helped me out for a couple days, it was just a friend. She just helped me out. And here I am in this apartment. I got this motorbike. I got money. I got my laptop. I'm in a good place. So I start looking on Facebook for people to meet. And there it was. There's a picture of Janet. And she went to Genobe High School when she went to school. Now Janet, when I met her, she's 30 years old. It's not a high school student. Genobe High School was right across the street from where I was staying. And I said, well, that means she lives close by. So I found 3 girls that all went to Genobe High School. They were all in their late 20s, early 30s. Janet was the only one that contacted me right away. And it took me like 3 or 4 days to get her to come over to the apartment and meet me. And once she met me, we hit it off pretty well. We started hanging out together, and she agreed to teach me how to ride a motorbike. And that was quite an experience, riding a motorbike. I would go too slow, and I'd get wobbly and off balance. But Janet was very patient with me, stayed close on her bike behind me, made sure I didn't get lost. And she took me all these cement barangay roads that had very little traffic. And there's very little traffic up around Genobe over into Cantilly, Bapandon area where Janet lived. And it was a nice place to learn how to ride a motorbike. And that's it. We started hanging out, and then Janet and I decided to look for a house, and we met Carol. And Carol found this great house for us at a great price. And her husband, you know, may he rest in peace, so nice, what a nice couple they were. And they helped me get situated and with Janet. And then once we found the house, I had to go do that nervous thing that as a teenager you did, or in your early 20s, go meet the family. Go meet the family. And I'll end the story with meeting the family. I went to meet the family. Janet said, I can't move in with you until you meet the family. So on a Saturday, they were expecting us. We stopped and picked up 2 roasted chickens. It cost me like 500 pesos and a couple bottles of Coke. And that's what we took to the first meeting. When I got there, only one person would talk to me. Everybody would look, but only one person would talk. It was Janet's oldest niece. She's college educated, and she spoke English, and she would talk to me and make me feel comfortable, and I thank her for that. And then we sat down to eat. Her dad sat at the head of the table, and I sat next to him. And it was nice, but nobody talked. Even the people eating, the kids would talk to each other. It was a food fest there. You know, there were so many kids, and they were all grabbing the food. Nobody wanted to be left without getting a piece of chicken, getting the rice and everything. It was pretty unique. I shook the father's hand and at the end, and we left. gave Janet's mom a hug, nice meeting you. And we've had a great relationship ever since. It was nerve-wracking at first, but I'm sure it was more nervous for them than it was for me. And I'm so happy I got to meet a great family that Janet has. It showed me when I met them how they kept our house, how family values, how they kept everything clean. There wasn't Red Horse bottles everywhere or rum bottles everywhere. It was a family-oriented, hard-working family, and I'm glad I found out how they were and who they were when I did. And I'm blessed to have met Janet and her family. I'm so happy with my life. So the first 90 days was a little interesting. That at first I was overly excited. I was in paradise, but then I got bored on the beach. Then I moved to Dumaguete. I found the cost for food, the cost to live, and everything was less. You got more bang for your buck. The apartment I had in Panglao, they told me that come July they were going to raise the rate back up to what it was, $25,000 a month, that it was before the pandemic. But because I was the first one there after the pandemic, they just wanted someone in there, start getting some revenue in. And Panglao is pretty expensive. The food, like I said, was expensive. The portions were small. Where I ate, I found Dumaguete, the food is a better value. You get more bang for your buck. Same thing with the rent, but it's the best move I ever made, coming here to the Philippines. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. As I go forward, I hope I don't make any more, but coming here to the Philippines was the top thing for me to do. It was a great choice. Moving to Dumaguete and meeting Janet, I couldn't have asked for anything better. If you have any questions about my first 90 days, leave it down in the comments section. Until next time.